So yeah, I think first of all, thanks for inviting. Very insightful. It's the first time actually seeing it. I think just really based on first impressions, a lot of it has been coming down to, in the prior years, the investment or the focus for the sector has been very marketplace driven, which part of the investment has gone into Carson, right? And of course, Caro as well. Yeah, just right next to me. Friendly competitor, right? but yeah, I mean, if they do well, we would do well as well. So I think it's really there's a huge market for many more players. But generally speaking, that team sort of started to shift as we move into seeing more EV driven. Probably not the last 12 months, even maybe last 24 months. It just started to really pick up, right? So that's an interesting trend that we all know, and I think it's definitely here to stay. It is where it's going to go to next. And obviously we have seen some examples around the world from like Europe markets, especially Norway, which is almost now close to 100% in terms of like new car sales being driven by EV models. We are yet to see that over here. And of course,
we are far from that here.
We're far from that. I think even from where the government set it as a target. And of course, down to a few key factors like whether there's enough financial incentive to allow that to happen. I think there's tax subsidy already. There's also 0% interest rate, as I recall, for some of the EV models. But ultimately, it comes down to the cost parity, right? Whether if you owned, I think the cheapest EV right now is cost how much? 100,000. 100,000 in Malaysia is
the one from Proton, right?
Yeah, that's a bit disappointing. I was looking forward to be Neta is the cheapest, which we also sell that. So you're looking for a Neta, you can come to us.
Correct.
But yeah, it hasn't really gone down to 100,000 and below. Hopefully next year, which is important because with that, then you start to see the market shift towards affordable EV cars, which in the IC still remain to have that advantage. A lot of people talk a lot about the charging infrastructure. It's not complete at all. I think it's less of a thing where it continue to really stay on pace with the number of EVs are on the road. So really, to me, it's coming down to like having models that EV model that makes sense for the general public, which is definitely going to happen. But probably not this year, but 2025. So I think that's something to watch. And I think the other thing that is closer or more relevant to us is definitely the second-hand EV car value, which is starting to become a problem in the Thailand market, where you see a much higher adoption rate, but yet they can't sell well in the second-hand car market, given that the price war or the new car level remain to be very intense. That damage the resale value. The battery life cycle is also continue to be a constant topic. Interestingly, in the Europe market and the West, right, like this hasn't been an issue. Maybe partly because the loan tenure is about 3 to 5 years, whereas here is maximum 9 years. But I think these are the two issues that prevent us being able to trade more EV cars at the moment. But yeah, I do believe that as we continue into the next 24 months, we will see a lot more EV adoptions, and then we'll start to see hopefully supply chain strengthen to a level where resale value and battery is less of an issue.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm surprised there's so much concentration on EV because I know two automotive editors in Malaysia who are very skeptical of the EV, becoming a key part of the market here. And these are people who cover the space for decades, right? So I think, Victor, maybe one thing you have to do is at one point have a round table just of tech editors, right? Automotive editors, from the Malay, Chinese, English press, and just hear from their viewpoint. It'll be instructive of you actually to find out why they think what they think. So anyway, with that, thanks a lot. So maybe the same question, just moving on to Yuki now. Can you take that in the sense of, what aspects of the report you find relevant to your business?
Thanks, Karang, and thanks thanks, Victor, for having me here. Maybe I do a quick intro because everyone know Eric may not know me.
Is the mic working? Can you all hear
Can
over
you
the?
hear me?
No. Okay. Just tap the image. Oh, it is. Yeah. Maybe you just have to speak louder. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, this
Turn
is
up the
better.
volume.
Yeah, this is better.
Okay.
I'm Yuki from Sima. We just rebranded ourselves, so I just do a little bit of intro.
Yep. Okay.
Last Friday, we just rebranded from Sime Darby to Sime, so that's our new logo. Anyway, I'm heading the mobility portfolio. So what under myself is I have a corporate venture fund that I'm managing. We invested 70 million in some of the startup and the fund. Of course, Vynn Cap is our portfolio company as well. We also do venture build, so that's what we are doing. To address Karam's questions, the mobility report that shared by Victor is very aligned with what we are doing, particularly in electrification. Like what I think Eric has shared a lot. I think this ecosystem is growing, and definitely we are the biggest automotive players in the region, and particularly in Malaysia. We sell majority of EVs car, around 60% market shares, and definitely we want to grow alongside of this development of the EV ecosystems, and definitely is part of our strategy. EV aftermarkets, EV recycling is something that myself have been consistently looking into. Agreed with what Eric mentioned. Besides the range anxiety, I think the other two concerns that I think not getting enough attention, I would think that is residual value, EV car residual value, and the other thing is EV battery post-warranty period. So myself is EV owner, so I do feel the pain point. You ask me range anxiety, is it really a concern today? Not so much. Once you have an EV, you know how to plan and manage and just do whatever. It's really not an issue. And to address that, we first came out spin off Kineta, which is focusing on home charging and private charging. So you just need a chargers at the destination, office or house. So then you can solve the range anxiety issue. But what I think remain open and there's no solution in the market is residual value. So I check my own second-hand value is horrible. It is horrible as well. So it's like it's remain a concern. So if we do not have the solution for the residual value, especially in Malaysia, I think that is very hard to increase the adoptions. Yeah. So the other issue is the EV battery aftermarket. So what happened after 8 years? So that is a question that I consistently ask principals and OEM. But no one can give me answer and no one crack on it. So I think more attention should be have on that part besides the range anxiety as well. So the other part of the report, I think that is also shared mobility and automotive platform. Is something we consistently look into. We also have a newest, I just shared with Eric that we also have a newest ventures called Autotech. So it's a software as a service company. So we just launched this month. It's pretty new, so we hope to see how this company can really bring a real impact to the market. Yeah.
Is it a internal launch company, or you invested in someone?
It's a JV co, so it's not a subsidiary, but it's an associate. So we have 3 partners. So I just share with Eric. It may overlap a little bit, but definitely we are not friend. We are friendly competitors.
We're definitely not friends. Yes, thank you for being truthful. We don't want friends. It's very boring if everyone is friends with each other.
We are friendly competitors and we are definitely strategic partners. Definitely, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, all right, fine. All right, so look, Victor, let me move on to Victor. My first question is 2 parts for him. And the first one is just me as a journalist, right, being a Kepo. Your 2021 report, Victor, right, was called Supply Chain and Mobility Investment. And here you've dropped supply chain. Why is that? In the report title.
Actually, 2021, we did I think it's purely focusing on investments. And it covers both mobility and supply chain. 2022, we actually did release another report to cover cross-border commerce. So that's more focusing on supply chain, which is why we thought, for the next edition, we wanted to focus more on mobility, because at the end of the day, we think that mobility, supply chain, it's kind of interchangeable. Whatever that you see the DHLs of the world using, they need vehicles as well. And vehicles or mobility doesn't just come from a consumer standpoint. It also comes from a B2B standpoint. Industrial players uses it as well. So that's why we think that these two sectors go hand in hand, and which is why it's just a matter of time for us to look at mobility in more granular angle.
Okay, fine. So the main question now is, what aspects of the report, right, do you find relevant in guiding your investment decisions?
So obviously we're biased, and of course most of all the guests here hasn't seen the full report yet, which I shared. We will be sending it out to all the attendees today via email at the end of today. It is useful for us because we need to know what are the factors that would affect this particular segments, each of the segments. Right now, even if you look at EV alone, electrification alone, there are greater forces at work. Meaning, you'll be looking at how much natural resources each market has, what are the government policies, what are the restrictions. It's just that Indonesia has a nickel ban as well. So a lot of these are factors that we need to consider when we are looking at any opportunities. And at the end of the day, for us, because we look at Southeast Asia as a market as a whole, that's where a lot of the data that we find is being used internally for us to make better investment decisions. It's just that right now we are literally spilling everything out to at least our partners who are attending today, so that everyone has some understanding of how we actually look at investments and deals.
All right, fine. By the way, in the car on the way here, I was telling my colleague that it's very interesting that as a small VC firm, right, or maybe even within Southeast Asia, very small, that Vynn Capital is focusing on producing industry reports, which are not easy to do well, right? And it's definitely been like a 6-figure investment and a lot of, like you were saying, almost a year. It's not easy to do. So it's kind of interesting that he has taken a knowledge-based approach, right, to create a stronger niche for himself in the space that he's in. Because obviously then when you go to GPs, you go to the market and you want to say, raise money for your next round or even the current round that's not closed yet, you can show your report and say, hey, we really know this space, right? We're not just linking to a McKinsey report, they're doing it themselves. So it's very impressive, very hard work, but it shows you're really trying to add value and differentiate yourself. So this is a very aggressive and ambitious young man here.
Not that young, yeah. So I can be in the used car market, that's why I have a car.
Okay, fine. So let me move on now to the next question, like Eric. So remember, right, guys, and ladies, if you have questions, please put up your hand and ask and right away, right? Don't wait till the end. Eric, second round of questions, right? While you're obviously not in the ride-sharing market yet, I should say, right? Everyone seems to be getting into it. You've just got, InDrive, the Russian-owned company that is in the market and ramping up, and you've got Bolt, and then last week, Food Panda, right? Got into it also, and I'm just so stunned. So what is it about this market, right, that is so interesting, and does this portend well for your business also?
Well, I mean,
or there's no link. There may be no link, and we'll move on to the next question.
Yeah, I mean, it has always been sort of a link, right? I think.
Are you all able to aim at the back? Sorry, because it's the you can now. Okay, yeah. The mic is not so clear on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, in a sense where all this ride-hailing, they don't own the car.
Correct.
Ultimately, someone has to own it, and obviously someone has to drive it as well. I think the owning part, in many ways, Carson has been partnering with on the company level to some of those ride-hailing firms that you mentioned.
Okay.
And then on the individual level, like gig workers who are driving it, oftentimes we also partner up with them. Already we supply cars to them.
Oh, okay.
It comes in many different forms. Like in particular, like Thailand, for example, we have a car rental company that does basically, if you see Europe car in Thailand, Malaysia, these are basically a company that we have invested.
Oh, Europe car. Okay.
Europe
Yeah, I'm
car.
familiar with the brand. Okay.
Yeah. So we are the licensed owner for the region, which we also supply cars to the likes of Grab, for example, and it's something that we've been doing. So I wouldn't say like the new entry, like Bolt, InDriver, or like Food Panda. It's not particularly new because if you look in the past, there's Asia, right?
Yeah,
There's
correct.
others as well. It just proved that the market is there. It just proved that it's huge enough to have more than one player. I think it's just something that's here to stay. It comes down to their strategy, right?
Yeah.
Like InDrive is a completely different segment compared to Grab and the rest. So how it complements to the market and to their own business ecosystem is probably where the difference they are making here.
Okay, fine, interesting. So let me move on to Yuki now, right? So this is a two-part question. The first one, you've got a very interesting, different mandate as a corporate VC. Can you just share, the thinking behind the mandate?
Yeah, we have CVC. I think CVC is slightly different from the institutional investor. So what we look at, of course, first thing first, you have to be mobility focused. So there's the key mandate. Hence, we invested with Vynn as well. And the others portfolio company that we invested is all have a car related. So it's not a secret that we invested in Socar, sorry Caro, then Car Expert, Kawa, then we invested in two fund of fund. One is Vynn, another is GRY fund, which is backed by the Geely and SK. They are based in, GP is based in Hong Kong. So it's very strong, highly mobility focused. But whenever I make an investment, there must be a strong strategic purpose. So meaning to say that there must be something that we can together we can work on, be it the incubations or strategic partnership or what else can help me, support me in the venture building, or I can bring it to the operations that can improve, enhance the processes and so on. So where value add is important. It has to definitely have to add value to my core business, but not to say that financial return is not important, but it may not be my key priority. So that having said that, yeah, that's summarize our mandate. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because actually it's not a key priority, but most corporate VCs, when they create one, they want to know, okay, giving you 50 million ringgit, we would like to see like X7 returns or whatever. So for Sign, it's not like that. So which is quite interesting and very open-minded of them because they're really thinking long-term with that.
But so still, when it's underwater, I still have to explain to my management and the board, which I'm doing now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, which you're doing now. So some are underwater. Okay. So she may not share those on stage here. Later you can ask her. Alright, but okay, part 2 of this question is, right, Yuki, is that, can you maybe share, right, 3 of the deals you've made and the expectations behind each of the deals and where are they standing now?
Sure. I'll skip Caro since.
Okay. No, if it's doing badly, by all means we want to hear. That's fine.
Just to be sure, today I'm not representing Kasim. I'm part of the investor in the fund.
Yeah. The very first investment we make is with Socar. I think everyone knows Socar here. That was in 2021 during the pandemic time and the MCO lockdown. So post-investment, we actually carry out a number of projects with them. We tested using their platform by putting some of our idle cars to test their business model, so see whether it works or not. And then we also set up a mobile service van just to service their fleet at their pickup zone. So it's purposely we set up, I think, 1 or 2 vans just to do that. It's also to test whether all this mobile service works or not, especially during MCO, everyone cannot go out, and I think that works for a while. But I think eventually, when times move on, both parties have different objectives that I guess we couldn't align, because startups look at top line. So we are still a conventional GLC that have to look at bottom line. So and then we paused the partnership. So today we are just one of the LPs of the SOCA. That is what our very first investment. Then we also invested in Kawa and Car Expert. They are the new car sales platform. So Kawa is one of the biggest in UK. I think if you guys are car people, you definitely view their YouTube and whatever, and then interesting. Car Expert have the similar business model, so we work with them to bring in quality leads that help us to convert into sales. So that is something we continue to work with them. The last one I would say is Vynn. Vynn, why we invested in Vynn is like my mandate actually we don't really look at so much into early stage investment. So Vynn complement well because they will invest in early stage. So that is one way of me reduce my to mitigate risk. Yeah. So I look at the later stage or more mature one, and Vynn can help to look at the early stage. Yeah. And also gain access to more mobility new startup company. So and we work very closely, and we also co-organize events. Like last year we have EV battery days together. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Now let me move on to a question. The same question. Same on the second round of questions for Victor, right? And taking a macro view now, because I'm kind of intrigued. Do you believe that this report can be useful to policymakers in the region? Because you did have, I didn't know you had one slide on regulatory, right, in the region. And why should our own Ministry of Transport pay attention to the findings?
I think at the end of the day, the report should be versatile enough for any stakeholders who are interested in this particular industry. I mean, as a venture firm, we're focusing on financial returns. Just to clarify, we're not under the water, so Vynn Capital is in good hands.
Oh, so you're not the one, okay. Yes, she has to explain to the board.
I think Vynn does best in bringing the synergy across the table. I mean, for us, we are of that same breed as well. Hence, whatever that we do, whatever that we release, we share it out. It's mainly for the benefit of the whole ecosystem. So definitely, MOT, Ministry of Transport, we are happy to work with them. For us, we are profit driven, and we definitely have to say that here and even in our office as well, because our main objective is to actually create value for our investors, for our LPs. We haven't really been working with the regulators, the policymakers.
Okay, I'm kind of surprised by that. Okay.
This is again, we are a small firm at this point of time relative to the larger VC markets, but we're doing our part to come up with something that could be useful for everyone else.
So maybe subsequently, when you have this event, you definitely have to invite people from the Ministry of Transport, right? So it'd be instructive for them to attend also.
If they're open to attending, yeah, why not? Yeah, we'd be happy to have more friends as well.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. So good. Okay, let's move on to the final round of questions, and then I hope some of you have questions coming up. So Eric, can you elaborate? So Eric, they expanded the business model last year into an ecosystem play. So can you talk about your ecosystem strategy that you introduced, right? And how, I guess, each of the pillars are doing to help you hit group profitability by, whatever the year is now. So, okay. Because last year he was at Forbes, and he said that by end of this year, they hope to be profitable at a group level. But, it's a constantly moving target, so.
So yeah, I think you caught the timeline a bit wrongly.
Okay.
So yes, Forbes was probably last year.
October last year.
Right. When we hit profitability in December last year as well, and we actually announced the news, right? And I think ever since then, the first quarter this year, second quarter has been consecutive profitable quarters. Q3 has been really, really great. It's three times of what we did in Q2.
You haven't announced that yet, right? Q3?
We haven't announced
Okay.
it yet. Yeah, so you guys are one of the
Sneak
first to
preview.
know.
There you go. Yeah. Thank God there are no journalists in the room to tweet it out.
You're not, right? Yeah. Tomorrow will be out, or maybe later today. Yeah. So you know, Q4 traditionally has been the busiest quarter, the busiest quarter of the year for
Q4
automotive. For automotive, right? With year-end sales, this and that, and all. So I think we do think that Q4 is going to look great, and as a whole, it will be our first profitable year. You know, as much as we are a startup as well, but as a late-stage startup,
yes.
you know, we don't just look at top line. Bottom line is equally important, and it has been also the team, right, for all startups,
yes.
Not just in the region but in the world. So the ecosystem play, you know, is a representation of, you know, that happening, because we started off as a platform that perhaps a lot of you have users. You sell your car to us, right? We give you a hassle-free experience, a good price, and we connect initially to the demand side, which is the dealers, right? So they have a need to procure inventory. But as we go, then the capability that we have built, you know, segue us into the retail demand, which if you're looking, you know, I just learned that we have a car buyer here today from Carson. Just bought a car last month. So that became also part of the demand distributions that we have in. So rightly so, if you think about the business model today, is that we have became the biggest supply source for used cars. And then we are distributing
in the region or in the country?
In the region.
In the region, huh?
So we have about 20% market shares in Malaysia, but yet about 2% of the region. So relatively small, but it's a very fragmented market. So after all, that volume is still the largest. And how that, you know, happened in the last 9 years is we keep doing it, and become like a word of mouth. And to this day, the ecosystem become a much bigger play, that as we sell a car to you or to a dealer, there is a financing need, there's insurance needs, there's after sales. So all of this then became also part of our value
business
proposition.
model,
Yeah, because, you know, that also expand the way we can capture revenue, the way we can capture margin uplift, which is part of the reason why that, you know, if you look at the business today of Carson compared to before, every business is, you know, generating cash for the wider group. The financing business, the transaction business between retail to wholesale, and we have some that we haven't really fully fledged out, like the insurance. We don't underwrite it, we just work with aggregators.
Okay.
But it's making, looking very promising for us to make it a sizable one as well. So I think the list just go on, right? It's a huge market, automotive, after all. It deserves a report.
Yeah.
And hence also, I think that's something that we feel very confident going into next year.
Okay. So financing was just only introduced last year. That's the most recent, right? Part of the ecosystem play, no?
Financing has been around since 2019.
2019, huh? Oh, okay.
So we have a vintage of a loan book of about now 5 to 6 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what was the latest part of the ecosystem model that you introduced? Was it going into EVs or something else?
Well, so we have
Directly.
Carson, we acquire iCar, right? So we have listing sales.
Correct.
You just heard that we have car rental. So quite a bit of everything. And Custom Academy as well, right? We train technicians for, I think we work with Simon as well for training technicians too. So we try to do a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Okay. And you know, they say if you do a little bit of everything, you cannot be very good in everything, right? So that's the danger that people are going to say you cannot be good in everything. So when you say a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason why we work with partners, because you can't be good at everything.
Correct.
And it just makes sense to have an open ecosystem rather than a closed one.
Okay, fine. All right, thank you very much. So, Yuki, now maybe can you share what areas are you looking at now, right, to make deals and that you hope will strengthen the corporate business?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, electrification continue to be the key strategic themes, particularly in the EV aftermarkets. So I consistently look at how we can participate in Second Life, recycling as well, but I have not identified an area a white space that can really add value to my core business and that we have a competitive edge. So that is continuous efforts to look to look at, and hopefully, yeah, through Vynn, then maybe we can find out something. Of course, working with Eric as well for the aftermarkets and second-hand used car. So the other area is we are also exploring digital side of the revenues. It's a new income stream for us because, as everyone knows, SIME is very conventional.
Correct. Yeah.
Dealership model. We are good at selling car, used car, these rentals, business after sales. So we are good at that, brick and mortar. So digital is something we realize that we cannot live without, and like AI and data, all this big data is so important as of today, how impact how we live and how we work. So something I think we actually explore with few business partner about the marketplace aggregators. So something we also continue to look at. So then on that topics, as I mentioned, we actually spin off a new ventures Autotech that look into the used car business as well as the digital tools. So that will continue that effort. So that two biggest pillars that we focus on.
That you're looking, but are you talking about in Malaysia or even in the region?
No, in the region.
In the region,
yeah.
Okay. So you do quite a bit of traveling also then? You're not just focused in based in Malaysia when you come?
Malaysia is always our
the base lah.
It's the base.
The
So
anchor,
whatever, yeah, it's the anchor, and I have everything here. I have a lot of supports. I have my existing network. So it's easier to start here. Then only after that, then maybe we can consider.
Okay lah, that's very logical.
Yeah,
okay.
Correct.
Because earlier you mentioned you made an investment in the UK, you know,
correct. Because they have the tech. Whenever I invest in the overseas, because maybe in Malaysia there's no such technology and no such business model.
Okay.
So with the hope that I can bring them over, that there's something to work on. Yeah.
So you start looking here first. If you don't find it, then you
correct. Yeah.
Fine. That's why I think our entrepreneurs will be happy to hear about that also. Okay. Now, Victor. So by the way, we're in trouble, right? Because I've only got one last question for Victor, and there are no more questions coming. We're going to have to end soon for lunch then. I mean, as a journalist, I have lots of questions, but we want to hear it from you also, right? Okay, great. Before I go to you then, Victor, there's a question right at the end there from a gentleman. Can we get him the mic, please? Maybe just your name, right? And which vertical you're in.
Joseph, hi everyone, I'm from Medicine. I have a question on hydrogen.
Hydrogen, wow, blue economy.
The key thing is that I think there's a lot of discussion on electrification. I think my question will be, how central is hydrogen in your future planning for all your different organizations, given that most of the other developing countries, or at least our regional neighbors, are looking at a serious hydrogen strategy, and a lot of investment is moving also very rapidly into hydrogen.
Okay, you know, our Minister of Science has got a hydrogen car, right, that he uses to go to Ipoh. It makes his officers very nervous when he wants to use that car, I know. So, okay, maybe Eric, we'll just take it from you first about hydrogen. And if it's not in the radar, that's fine, you can just move on to Yuki then.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, for a custom, we are a trading business, right? So it has to be tradable. Like we are seeing challenges and issues when it comes to trading EV in the second-hand car market. So I think for hydrogen, it still has to be established. Very early to tell from our side.
Okay, all right.
I tends of agree though. Actually, it's an interesting question because there are a lot of questions. Hydrogen EVs, which one will win? There are someone who told me that maybe hydrogen will win at the end of the day. Personally, I think it's a bit too early to say that, and you have to see the investment in the entire ecosystem. There's so much investment in the EVs already from each value chain, from the OEMs to the infra to the batteries to the downstream. So to write that off and come up with hydrogen, hydrogen is too far-fetched for me. So it takes time. I'm not into that yet. At least.
For us, deal flow, obviously, we're talking about deal flow.
Yeah, correct.
Our role within the hydrogen segment is still very, very limited. We did come across a few companies that are doing hydrogen fuel cells.
Oh, in the region?
In the region.
Oh, interesting.
But it's only one out of the thousands of companies that we've seen.
Yeah, thousands, okay.
So there's only one or two companies. Generally speaking, it is still a segment which is very early for Southeast Asia. But we do recognize that hydrogen technology is not, you know, can be found somewhere else, maybe from Korea, maybe from the US, wherever it is.
Yeah.
So we do see that happening. The beauty of early stage investment is that a lot of these solutions can be imported.
Yeah, of
From
course.
their perspective, exported. So we would never say no to having a conversation with a company that's not from Southeast Asia, but have the tech stack that looks interesting enough.
Interesting
for the
enough. Yeah.
conversation.
Okay.
So that's where we can bring to our partners.
Understood. I think for hydrogen also, if you're really interested, you've got to look at the universities, right? That's where the brain power is. That's why you've got, you know, people with PhDs working on stuff, and you want to get a sense of where we are at, right, in that space. I will look at the universities, because I know UNIC Malaya has got an expert in hydrogen economy. And so, you know, you can obviously start there. But maybe, go ahead, UK.
I think the most important from the commercial perspective, because I'm a corporate, ultimate is the economics, right? So it boils down to that. Yeah, is whichever is cheaper, whichever is optimize the cost and benefit. That's all about it. Yeah.
Understood. Market adoption. Okay. Maybe Victor, maybe take the third question, right, that I had for you was that has there been any significant mindset change, right, among founders this year versus, you know, from last year, where valuation suddenly became a factor of profitability and growth?
Generally speaking, at least from my point of view, obviously my team would be able to share more as well if you speak to them after this. Lunch is, we're going to serve lunch after this as well, by the way.
Not here,
I mean, you can take the phone and say whatever it is.
Okay.
Housekeeping message. But overall, I think founders are becoming more mature.
More mature. Okay.
Yes. Obviously, you need somebody to tell them what the market is looking for. And if larger startups like Qasim, well, not just Qasim, a lot of the larger companies are looking for profitability, that drives a lot of the younger entrepreneurs or the earlier stage companies to also look at the same thing, because they look at these guys as the lighthouse to see what is the end game going to be.
So there's like a ripple effect, is
Yes,
it? Okay.
exactly. So I think entrepreneurs now are more mature from that perspective. The only thing that's probably a little bit more difficult to talk about is how do these startups continue to work with corporates. While corporates are becoming more open, like Sign, to work with entrepreneurs, not all of them are that open yet. And excuse me. And there's also the need to balance between venture-built companies and external startups. So that's where, you know, there's a lot of moving parts where you see more development over time.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience? How are we doing for time, by the way? Just so we're
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Okay, we've got 7 minutes to go. You know, so please, if you have any more questions, anyone from the audience have a question that you'd like to ask? Okay, that gentleman there, pass him the mic, please. Very good. Thank you.
Just to fill up the 7 minutes. Just curious, what motivates Vietnam to grow at the rate they are growing, especially with the growth of VinFast?
Yeah, VinFast is just insane. It's like this behemoth, and they say we're going to grab all the opportunity in the country we can. It's very rare to see one company, one would try to be all, but I think it's the system of government also that kind of helps that. Yeah, you cannot do that in a democracy, democratic run, a free market economy. I don't know, but good question. So, anyone want to take it? Share a perspective.
I think from my point of view, Vietnam's numbers are great because of one company.
One company, yeah.
Company.
So it distorts the market reality of
Yes.
Vietnam now. Okay.
Yes, even with a 5-to-1 ratio in terms of, like, for example, charging stations.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, but the charging stations can only be used by VinFast vehicles.
Oh, not any other
Not
competitor.
anyone.
Wow.
So they're only going to open it up after, I think, 2028.
Okay.
Sorry, another 10 years time.
Oh, wow.
So which is where, while the number looks nice, interesting, but it's still very much driven by, like, very huge concentration factors that are driving that growth. So, you besides the numbers, you got to drill down to what are the factors that's leading to the numbers that we see in the report.
Yeah. I mean, that's a real anomaly as a company, right? And they're already, I think, Nasdaq listed, right? They're EV making business in the US, so incredibly aggressive. So you don't see that anywhere else in South, not even in Asia. You see one company, right? trying to do so much to dominate, hot spaces in the market. So it's very unique.
Yeah, it's not just one guy, it's the richest guy.
Richest guy, yeah. He's become the richest guy, yeah, correct. Interesting. So, but okay, Eric, you're not in Vietnam, right? So, is that it's a big market, right? Is that a market you all are looking at? And why not? Is it because of the Vynn factor? And then if there's one more question from the audience, we will love it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, maybe you take that first. Yeah. Why you're not in Vietnam? Is it because of the Vynn factor? Not Vin. It sounds the same, Vin. I need to work on my enunciation here, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, to answer that question, Vietnam is a very bike-centric market still.
Very what?
Bike-centric.
Bike, motorbike, okay.
So, the used car, or rather the new car sales is even behind Philippines.
Oh wow, interesting, I didn't know that.
So it doesn't really make sense for us to go into a market where the new car sales is like the fifth, among Southeast Asia countries.
Okay.
Fifth or sixth, yeah,
Okay.
around there. And I think the other thing is, VinFast is particularly more successful in Vietnam is because of a lot of B2B fleets, government fleets, rental fleets,
Okay.
and whatnot. Which is the same strategy to try to apply in other countries right now, in particular Indonesia. But it's not going to be that straightforward.
Yeah, of course.
In foreign markets, right?
Yeah.
So I think to put it very simply, Vietnam is not a market for us at the moment, and I think for VinFast is also to really overcome that B2C demand.
Yeah.
To really see it take off.
Okay. Can the gentleman then get the last question in?
Hi, I'm John, and I'm from Vynn Capital. We are also one of the largest LPs in Vynn Fund too. Okay, my question is very straightforward. Actually, it goes back to the original question on this discussion, which is how important is mobility sector to the economy? And I think, a lot of great discussions here, but I think it pretty much focuses back to respective parties' perspective on their own business, and likewise, also the questions angle also more specific on their respective field. So I would like to see the bigger picture of whatever you guys have been doing. I suppose, okay, let me define first, and I would say instead of asking how important is mobility sector to Malaysian and Southeast Asian economy, I would like to tweak the question a bit to how important is mobility tech sector to the economy, because we are talking about a tech shift from a very conventional and traditional mobility sector to a tech-driven mobility sector which covers electrification and etc. And what is the foreseeable multiplier effect that can be brought by mobility tech to the economy by large? Yeah, so I would like to address this question because of the time constraints. So perhaps just like a very brief sharing by each of them.
Maybe we'll start.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So maybe Victor will start with you because your report had you spoke so much about electrification, and I'm very skeptical, right? So.
So I think overall, in terms of multiplier, when we look at mobility.
Sorry, are you all able to hear him? Because it sounds like the mic is not that loud. Everyone at the back there, okay? Can you hear him, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think, so going back to John, your question, how important is mobility sector and what sort of multiplier? Overall, we think that there's a lot of inefficiencies in the way we move around, in the way we are bringing products around, which is why as I mentioned, when we look at mobility, we're not just looking about passenger cars. We're not just talking about EV for consumers, but also how industrial sectors can also utilize and adopt some of these solutions. The easiest way to look at the benefit of mobility tech is to look at how much data, unstructured data, that you can extract from the existing ecosystem, and then turn that into clean data which you can act on it and to be more efficient. So that early phase of digitalization should be the first wave of opportunity that people look at. And with that, then you can go deeper into each of the segment to see how you could change the existing process flow. So from our point of view, mobility tech doesn't just cover vehicles, but also around how you can actually make sense of all this offline data of how products and people are being moved from one point to one point, and then create products on top of it. to create that sort of efficiency. So that's, to us, obviously the multiplier should be big enough for us to put our effort into this particular segment. But yeah, that's at least from our point of view.
Do you know PKT Logistics, Dr. Michael Teo? Yeah, he's quite advanced. You should ask him how he's applying at least telemetrics, right, to his fleet, because there's a big opportunity. That can maybe partially answer a question, because that's a $500 million ringgit revenue company a year. At least the last he told me. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how he's applying it. That can give you a small, example of how entrepreneur-led, right, logistic companies are applying digitalization into their business. Okay, sorry, Yuki, would you like to take that?
I share a quick one. For us, is mobility is not just about passenger, like I mentioned. It's about how you move from one place to another. My ultimate mobility would be mobility as a service for us. Even though we are selling cars, but how I see is supposed to change car ownership. So if mobility as a service, then by right everybody is a service. It's not ownership of the car. So it's supposed to optimize all this effectiveness, efficiency, and cost. So that multiplier, I wouldn't know how much, but it will definitely be huge, and it will change the entire ecosystem when it really happens one day. Yeah.
Eric?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, structurally, if you think about Southeast Asia, is very hard to convince someone to not own a car. All right. So I think
outside of Singapore, I guess, right?
Outside of Singapore, yeah, 100% correct. Yeah, but it's the same around everywhere. You look at Hong Kong, look at small country, right? Like a city-state. City-state would have that kind of environment, whereas Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and everywhere else is point A to point B is very ownership-driven for cars. Partly also because of affordability, So then a lot of it comes down to when you talk about the tech involved, right? So firstly, or from our perspective, is how trade happen, right? Which is where we implement the conditioning, car condition data, the car pricing. So matching the supply and demand between, firstly the domestically between states, then down to the individual level, and then further on is how we implement on the ownership journey as you own a car. There's plenty of things that happens. You have a car that broke down, you have a tire to change, you have to do the maintenance. And then when it comes to time for you to upgrade to the next car, what is your resale value of your car, right? Does it offset the positive equity? Do you have to pay for down payment, or do you don't have to pay? So there's a lot of data points in between. I think a lot of people focus on, pay-as-you-go insurance, telematics, this and that and all. I think is to me, rather in cars is very simple, right? What the industry in Southeast Asia needs is people 90% own a car. What do they require as a data point to really make sense out of that ownership? And then we think about how do we work on those verticals, right, to present that value add, which is how we think about mobility, right? The ownership in Southeast Asia is like in the US. You pretty much see most people who own a car, and it's still very low penetration. Like KL, Klang Valley, 10 million population, most likely more all of them own a car. When you look at like second tier, third tier cities, it's like 50%. So there's a massive difference, right, between those, and that's how we try to really bridge towards encouraging more ownership. And we don't produce cars, right? So it's not like we are populating and more traffic on the road, but rather just really making the car a little bit more affordable and more green, so that the condition-wise stay as good, right, as we drive it.
Okay, interesting. All right. I don't think you got a good answer from that, but it just shows you, right, how it's just such a small space, right, in the economy. Now, but if you want to know questions like that, it's actually great that you're thinking of that. You really absolutely have to look to the developed markets to see how that sector, right, is impacting the overall economy, and then that gives you some points as to what could possibly happen here. And obviously, you look for centers of excellence. Some universities, again, may have centers of excellence, right, around the mobility economy or something. Then you want to engage with them to find out what's going on, right? But still very, very early, and like I said, when you talk about the E or the digitalization of our mobility space, is still super early days, and I don't know whether it'll ever achieve the potential people think it will. Right? So when Victor has the roundtable with motoring editors, you should attend that, right? That'll be useful for you. So okay, with that now, thank you. Is there any one last question from anyone? No? Oh, okay, maybe sorry Henry, you're a journalist, you don't know.
In the interest of time,
Yeah.
can I suggest for us to take the question offline?
Offline?
So
Okay.
that everyone can go market.
Okay, fine. So, okay, so we'll take it offline then.
Yes. Before that,
Yeah.
I think, thank you very much for coming and thank you for being here as
For the
well,
panelists, yeah.
Karen and Yuki.